Hey there, so glad you're here. This is Reddit Stories Podcast. Relax, you're safe here. Here's our first story. Karen tried to declare independence over cat food. I work at a big box store in a suburban part of Texas, where it's either bone dry or raining sideways, and folks will fist fight over lawn chairs going on clearance. You know the type. It was the 4th of July, and the store was packed with people buying every possible item that could make them feel festive. Cheap grills, marshmallows, sparklers, plastic flags, pool noodles, mystery meat in bulk. I was manning the self-checkout zone that afternoon, nursing a warm Diet Coke and a sore back, already a few hours deep into a shift that felt longer than the Declaration of Independence itself. That's when I heard it, a weak, nervous laugh over the radio. Price check on cat food, register 4. Customer says it's buy one, take 2. Now, I don't know what kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy this person thought they had walked into, but we've never in the history of retail done a buy one, take 2. And if we had, I sure as heck would have cleared the shelves myself. I glanced over at register 4 and immediately felt a pang of regret. Poor Elena. Brand new. Still wore her badge lanyard too high like a choker. She was the kind of cashier who triple-checked every coupon like it was a nuclear launch code. Sweet girl, zero fight in her. The customer she was dealing with, though, full fight, all bark, all bite, and a glint in her eye that told me she probably practiced arguments in the mirror. Hair set in stiff curls, face powdered within an inch of its life, shirt with a distressed flag print and the words "Land of the Free because of the Brave" on it. Karen was fully activated. And she had props. 3 giant bags of cat food stacked on her cart like she was about to feed a zoo. She was pointing at one of them and talking loudly enough to make the rotisserie chickens in the deli section spin faster. "Sign said it clear as day," she barked. "Buy one, take 2. Not my fault if your staff can't label things right." Elena was floundering, flipping through the ad flyer like it might suddenly contain the secret to surviving this job. I radioed for Jose to go check the sign, mostly because he owed me one from covering a smoke break earlier. He groaned, but he went. Jose is a decent guy. He's got that sleepy golden retriever energy. The kind of dude who says, "My bad," even when you step on his foot. He's great at unloading pallets and making playlists. Confrontation, not his gift. I kept pretending to check machines and bagging stations while eavesdropping like my life depended on it. The tension was growing. You could feel it in the air. That specific kind of pressure that builds up when someone insists the world is out to get them over a mislabeled discount. Karen would not let it go. She kept repeating herself louder and louder, like that might summon a manager of Moses or someone with more authority than a teenager in khakis. Elena tried offering her a manager override, a small discount, even helped check other promos, but nothing worked. Jose came back and mumbled into the radio. "Yeah, so it says buy 2, get 1 free, but the way the tag is folded, I guess, from the side it kind of looks like a 1. He trailed off, no conviction, and Karen pounced. "So, you admit your signage is misleading?" She whipped out her phone and started filming. Elena kept adjusting her name tag, the way some people fix their hair before they cry. Jose attempted damage control, but Karen had already decided she was the victim. "I'm not leaving without my 2 free bags." The front-end supervisor, Kendra, finally showed up, wiping mustard off of her shirt from a break room hot dog. She tried to de-escalate, but Karen wasn't here to de-escalate. She was here to win. She leaned hard into phrases like illegal practices and discrimination and my rights as a consumer. That was when her ex-husband walked in. I didn't know that at first. I just saw a tall, sunburned man in a Bass Pro hat stroll in holding a bag of charcoal, followed closely by a woman maybe in her late 20s, wearing shorts and a red tank top. Not scandalous, just something you'd wear if you weren't planning to argue about cat food in public. Karen spotted him immediately. Of course she did. Her eyes went wide and she called out, half surprised, half annoyed. He blinked and said something to the young woman, who kind of winced, then asked quietly if they should leave. He sighed and said he just needed to grab lighter fluid and she could wait by the cooler. But no, Karen marched over, leaving her cart like a shipwreck in the aisle. She cornered him, asked what he was doing there, asked why he brought her, said something about how the timing of all of this is really convenient. The guy said something like, "We're just having a cookout." Karen was not having it. She pointed at the cat food and demanded he tell the manager she was right. He said, "About what?" And that kicked off round 2. Kendra was still trying to hold things together at Register 4 while Jose hovered and Alina just walked away, like quietly. She slipped off behind a shelf of plastic bins and didn't come back. I honestly respect it. Karen kept yelling, now looping in the ex-husband and the young woman who had the bad luck of tagging along. A few customers pulled out phones. A little boy tugged at his mom's arm and pointed. His mom just shushed him. Security finally came over. They tried to calm her down. She claimed she was being filmed without her consent and that this was harassment. She started calling everyone sheep and mentioned something about fluoride in the water. By the time the police arrived, Karen was still standing near her cart, arms crossed, blocking the lane and refusing to leave until someone took accountability. She wasn't shouting anymore, just repeating. She sounds like she needs to talk to a professional. She wasn't shouting anymore, just repeating herself in this low, tight voice that somehow made everything feel worse. She was demanding that people do some kind of citizen arrest on the manager, like she had seen it in a movie but couldn't remember how it worked. They didn't. The officers asked her to leave. She said no, claimed she had the right to stand her ground. They told her this was a private business. She said this is America. They glanced at each other, then at the cat food, and finally just walked her out while she lectured them about consumer rights. The ex-husband looked exhausted. He mouthed, "Sorry," to Kendra and paid for his charcoal. The younger woman, polite as ever, nodded at us and quietly said, "Happy 4th," as they left. Alina eventually wandered back from behind the bins and asked if it was over. Jose handed her a soda and said it was. The promo sign was fixed that evening, and Karen left a Google review the next day with 1 star and a photo of the folded tag as evidence of systematic oppression. As for me, I can't hear the word price check without twitching. I used to work customer service at a grocery store, and yep, the "I know my rights" people are always the ones making them up on the spot. Buy one, take 2 is a new level though. This gave me war flashbacks. We once had a guy demand a 50-inch TV for $5 because someone misprinted a shelf tag. He refused to leave until a manager got involved. Security walked him out and he yelled about false advertising. Hey Karen, if a sign said "Buy one, take 2, what would you do? Load my cart and start a revolution. You don't mess with a woman who alphabetizes her coupons. Even if it was just a folded tag? Then someone's about to get unfolded. And by someone, I mean the manager, the assistant manager, or whichever stock boy printed that sign." You really tried a citizen's arrest over cat food? "It was a strategic suggestion, and for the record, I was the one being oppressed by overpriced kibble and systemic discount denial." And what did the police do? Took her side, just like they did during the Great Rotisserie Chicken Incident of 2022. Useless. Am I the jerk for refusing to return the cat my ex only adopted to impress me? I, 29 female, need help deciding whether I'm being selfish, cruel, or just protective. 3 years ago, I met Malik, 31 male, during a really lonely time in my life. He was this wiry, charismatic skater who walked barefoot around the city, quick-witted and scrappy in a way that made you feel like life could be more bearable with him around. He could make you laugh at the dumbest things and talk like every conversation might change your life. He read people like open books, and at the time, I wanted to be read. I was Christian, raised traditionally. He was Muslim, from a family that was devout but fractured in their own ways. We talked a lot about faith early on. He said he respected my beliefs, that polyamory went against everything he stood for, that if we ever got serious, he'd honor me not just in private, but publicly, that he wasn't like the others who toyed with women outside their faith, and I believed him. Back then, I wanted to believe in something. Just a few weeks into our friendship, before we were even officially dating, he messaged me out of the blue with a photo of a ginger Persian kitten, fluffy, wide-eyed, with this serious little face that made you want to take care of him. He said his cousin was giving the kitten away and that he had already taken him home. I had told him how much I loved cats. He said he had already named him Simba. He brought Simba over to my condo that same week, said it was just for a visit, but left him with me for 3 days. I didn't mind. Simba was gentle, curious, and clung to me like he had chosen me too. Looking back, I realize now that Simba was the offering, a very calculated one. Malik didn't have much money or structure in his life, but he had timing. He knew how to make people feel special. I was working a stable job, living alone, and craving connection. He brought Simba, then gradually started staying over, then staying longer, then just never really left. Then the lockdowns hit, and Simba became ours, or so I thought. In those early days, it felt like magic. We were locked down in my condo for most of 2020, and life slowed to a rhythm that made room for us. Malik would cook me elaborate breakfasts, clean the place top to bottom, light incense like we lived in a yoga studio. He took videos of Simba doing silly things and called it our little family. He was affectionate and intense, always telling me I softened him, that I was his second chance at real life. He had served almost a year in the past for drug charges, something he told me quietly, but he swore that chapter was over. Said I made him want to be better, and for a while, I believed he was trying. I paid for our food, bills, streaming services. It didn't matter then. We were a team. He said he'd contribute once he found something stable. Simba got his shots, went to the vet regularly. Malik even bought him a toy tunnel and a scratching post. The little family we were building felt real. Then 2022 came. Malik started pulling away. He slept during the day and disappeared most nights. Said he was clearing his head, that the city made him restless. He had grown up in the countryside, so I understood. But then I'd find him in stairwells, scrolling on his phone, eyes glassy, and barely a word for me. I asked if he was okay. He said I was overthinking again. Then Simba started getting sick. At first, he became sluggish, lost his appetite, and developed small brown spots in his mouth that looked like moles. It turned out to be feline papillomavirus. We had to isolate him for weeks and go back and forth to the vet. I paid for everything. I was the one force-feeding him, wiping him down because he couldn't clean himself, and staying up at night to monitor him. It was financially draining and physically exhausting, especially since I was working full-time at the same time. But I didn't even think twice. I just wanted him to get better. Then, months later, Simba started losing fur and scratching himself raw. His skin flaked like dandruff. I tried everything. Changed shampoos, cleaned obsessively, even thought it might be mange. Took months and a mountain of vet bills to find out he was allergic to poultry. We had to switch his food to a specialty diet. Expensive, but it worked. By that point, Malik barely noticed. He'd pet Simba now and then, but didn't check on him. Didn't ask how the appointments went. Didn't offer to help, not even once. He couldn't hold a job for more than a few weeks. Said he didn't like taking orders, that the system was stacked against guys like him. I believed him until I saw how he chose not to show up. Still, I tried. I thought maybe if he had more independence, more dignity, things would improve. So I bought him a motorcycle. Not a loan, a gift. He said it would help him do deliveries, earn money, contribute. He used it all right, for food delivery, for late night runs with his skater friends, and later, I found out, for something much worse. But I'll get there. In the middle of all this mess, his family called and said that they wanted to talk to me properly. I thought maybe they were finally going to do an intervention, try to talk some sense into him. Instead, they showed up at our condo in full traditional attire. His mother and sister brought trays of Muslim food and laid out elaborate table linens. His uncle started talking about family, tradition, and dignity. It was all a blur. I didn't fully understand at first what they were getting at until it hit me. They were proposing to me on Malik's behalf. They offered a dowry, not a token, a substantial one. They said they were serious about me, that I'd be part of their family. I thanked them as kindly as I could, but said I needed time to think about it. After that, everything started to really fall apart. Malik was hurt and took it personally, like I'd rejected him entirely, when all he really had to do was take a hard look at himself and try to grow. But he didn't. He shut down instead. He moved out a few months later, said he wanted to finish his degree, focus on school. I helped him find a boarding house and paid the deposit, sent him money for groceries and gas. He promised we'd make it work long distance. It was barely 2 weeks before I started hearing stories. He stopped replying often, and when he did, it was short, distant, usually just to ask for money. I figured school was stressing him out. Then one day, I got a message from one of his old friends. Someone I didn't know well, but we always had friendly small talk whenever we ran into each other. He said Malik was using again, that he had been bragging about sleeping with prostitutes. Then he laughed about how easily I handed him money, that he had borrowed from my own relatives, saying we were getting married and needed help with the wedding. I'd later find out he even borrowed from an old friend of mine from work, told her I was in the hospital after a miscarriage. I was utterly broken. Up to now, I still don't have words for that kind of pain. I didn't want to believe it, until I saw the screenshots, chat logs, photos. I confronted him. He admitted to everything, then broke down crying, apologized sincerely with the kind of tears that make you pause. They seemed too raw to fake. He said he let the ghosts of his past take over, that he got lost, made every wrong choice, but finally realized I was everything to him, that I was the only real thing he'd ever had. And for a moment, I believed him. I still loved him, still held on to the hope that he'd come back around and treat me the way he did in 2020 when he put me on a pedestal and made me feel like a princess. But 2 days later, he asked if I could send him money. Said he crashed a businessman's sport car while wasted and needed to pay him off to avoid legal trouble. I didn't send anything. What I did was hold Simba. Simba, who had been sick and healed. Simba, who curled up next to me every time I cried. Simba, who waited by the door every night during those first weeks after Malik left. Eventually, I found the strength to end it. I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that I was done lying to myself, done waiting for someone who only ever showed up when he needed something. And then came the final insult. A few weeks later, he messaged me out of nowhere, said he wanted Simba back, that Simba was his cat, that he adopted him, that his name was on the old vet forms, that I was just being petty and bitter. He didn't ask how Simba was doing. His sister messaged me a week later. She said she understood both sides, that maybe this was Malik's way of taking responsibility, that maybe Simba could be his second chance. She said I was making things harder by holding on. Maybe I am, but I'm also trying to start over. I've decided to go back to school, finish my degree, rebuild my life. I want to get out of survival mode. I want to have a future that doesn't begin with betrayal and end with bailouts. Simba is the only part of that past that doesn't make me feel like a fool. He sleeps on my chest now, follows me from room to room, paws gently on my hand whenever I start crying again. He's not just a pet. He's the part of me that still believes in quiet, consistent love. But I don't know if I'm being fair. Technically, Malik adopted him first. I'm torn. I know my ex only got Simba to win me over, and now after everything, he wants him back. I'm the one who's been looking after him, taking him to the vet, figuring out what food works, which brands won't mess him up, what toys he actually plays with. I know his moods, his quirks, the little things that help him feel okay. I don't think Simba would be safe with him, not after all that's happened. He just doesn't know him. What would you do if you were in my place? Would you give him back? Thanks in advance for your thoughts. I really need some perspective on this. You're not being petty. You're being protective of yourself and of Simba. Malik may have brought him into your life, but you're the one who raised him. You know what he eats, what calms him down, how to care for him when he's sick. You've been there. Malik hasn't. Honestly, this doesn't sound like it's about the cat. It sounds like Malik's trying to feel less like a failure or wedge himself back into your life. And his sister, well-meaning or not, a second chance shouldn't come at Simba's expense. Cats remember. Trauma sticks. You've done the hard thing. You chose to walk away from someone you still loved because you finally saw the truth. You don't owe Malik anything. Not your time, not your peace. And definitely not the cat who helped carry you through it. Keep Simba. He's not just a pet. He's your family. He's the proof you survived. I feel for you, and it's clear you've done everything for Simba. But just playing devil's advocate, are you sure keeping him isn't also your way of holding on to the one part of that relationship that didn't fall apart? Still, I wouldn't hand Simba over. Your ex sounds unstable, and cats don't deserve to be dragged through someone's redemption arc. Update. OMG, I totally forgot about this. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm back and I'm okay. Here's the update. Everything happened so fast. About 2 months after my ex and I broke up, I met the love of my life. He proposed 2 weeks later. We're so deeply connected, it's almost unreal. He treats me so well and has taken amazing care of me. Fast forward to now. We just got married last month. I only got back on here because I'm looking up stuff for our new house. And yes, I kept Simba. My ex eventually stopped bothering me. Simba loves his new dad. And honestly, his dad spoils him. And me. Thanks so much, everyone. Wish you all the best in life. Hey Karen, what would you do if your ex demanded his cat back?
I'd ask him if he wants the vet bills too, or just the emotional damage.
What if he says the cat was technically his?
Then he can technically go cry in a litter box. Simba's got a new dad now, one that doesn't suck.
I tried to help an old man with his cart. It did not go well. It was a weekday afternoon, cold but sunny. I had just finished shopping for the usual bachelor essentials, eggs, hot sauce, box mac, and 2 cans of soup I swore I'd eat but never would. I was pushing my cart towards the exit when I saw an older man standing just past the checkouts in that in-between spot, that little entry area where people usually pause before heading out the sliding doors. He was hunched over his cart, hands gripping the handle, head lowered, just standing there, not moving. He looked like he might be struggling, maybe trying to remember where he parked, or maybe just catching his breath. His cart was full, but neat. A pack of chicken, some oranges, bread, toilet paper. Looked to me like he lived alone. He wasn't asking for help or waving anyone down, but something about his posture hit me in the chest. I figured maybe I could save him a few steps. So I walked over. I gave him a little nod and said something like, "Let me help you with that, sir." Then I grabbed his cart and started pushing it toward the parking lot. Thought I was doing my good deed for the day. 2 seconds later, I heard a raspy voice behind me.
Hey! Hey!
I glanced back, thinking maybe he forgot something in the cart. Nope. The man was still standing where I'd found him. Except now, without the cart, he was wobbling. One foot shuffled forward, then the other. He wasn't chasing me exactly, but he was definitely following. Hands half out like he was trying to catch his balance. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't heading to his car. He wasn't done with the store. He had just been leaning on the cart to rest. I had taken the thing he was using for support, full-on yanked it right out from under him like some kind of overzealous Boy Scout. I stopped, still gripping the cart, and turned around. He was maybe 10 feet away now, out of breath and visibly annoyed. Not furious, just very, very done with me. At that point, I should have just apologized and brought it back to him right away. But something in me froze for the longest 2 seconds of my existence. Maybe it was embarrassment, or maybe it was that weird panic of being too deep into a mistake to back out gracefully. So instead of owning up, I tried to save face. I asked if he needed help loading anything. He said no, a little too quickly. Then I said something like, "I'll just bring this up to your car for you," which made no sense because he wasn't headed to his car, and I knew it. He didn't say anything back, just stood there with his hands in his coat pockets, glaring like I just kicked his walker. So now I'm standing there in no man's land between him and the exit, holding a full cart that I have no business holding, and he's standing in the cold with nothing to lean on. The whole thing was a mess. We just stared at each other. He didn't yell, didn't even wave me back, just stood there, and somehow that was worse. Eventually I snapped out of it and wheeled the cart back over, slow and careful, like I was approaching a dog that might bite. He didn't say a word, just gripped the handle again like it was oxygen. I mumbled some weird apology, something about trying to help and "thought you were heading out," and "sorry, sir." He gave me a little half nod, not forgiving exactly, just acknowledging I meant well, even if I absolutely failed. Then I turned and walked away, not quite running, but definitely not strolling either. Got to my car, shut the door, sat in silence for a full minute. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny, not yet, but because what else can you do? Anyway, I go to a different grocery store now. That man probably went home and told his wife, "Some kid tried to rob me in broad daylight, took my cart and everything." Meanwhile, you're out here spiraling like you committed a felony. It happens to the best of us. Hey Karen, what would you do if someone accidentally took your cart?
I'd chase them down like it was the last pumpkin spice candle on clearance. If a man so much as touches my cart, he's declaring war. That thing has my almond milk, my fiber gummies, and my emotional support granola. You think you can just walk off with that?
Even if it was an honest mistake?
Mistake or not, nobody walks off with my rotisserie chicken and 2-for-1 yogurt without consequences.
That's all for now, but don't be blue. We'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Redder every night, so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright. Now click this playlist, come follow along. We'll be right here. Until then, so long.